We did not know that we'd have even stiffer competition than Jago. The Kramlichs, as you know, founded a trust completely dedicated to media art. And if they planned to acquire the Merode, Patrick had good reason to sell to them instead. Well, I don't want to say that their trust would be more prestigious than our living room, but I will give them that. I said please to Patrick before he even finished kissing both of my cheeks hello. Please tell me you haven't already sold the Merode. We haven't even seen it yet. He toyed with me, saying, well, we do have interest.
Now you have passion.
What's that, Harry?
You have passion.
Oh, right. Harry immediately said, and now you have passion. It was very good, yes. Patrick ushered us into the small screening room that he'd constructed to show the Merode. He said that after the fair's first 2 hours, once they let in the second tier of VIPs, you know, that riffraff that only has tens of millions of dollars instead of hundreds? Oh, I'm just making a joke, dear. But once they were let in, Patrick would only show the Merode once every 2 hours. He was concerned that constantly running the film might cause damage. I must say, I believe he did it simply to generate more publicity for Miss Merode. And good for him, because by the second day of the fair, people queued to see this film that may never be seen again in public, depending on who bought it. Harry and I watched this film in complete awe. She was so young, and the film was so beautiful. When it ended, Harry said, darling, do you remember this? Do you remember? Harry said, I don't mean to be uncouth, but where might we be on the waiting list? Patrick said, let's not worry about that quite yet. You know that I absolutely adore the two of you. Rather than worrying about waiting lists right now, I highly recommend that you go to see the piece that Celia is showing in Unlimited. I believe that the evolution from this early piece to her latest work will make you appreciate her career's trajectory to an even greater extent. Again, I thought I'd faint not knowing if we'd have this piece for our collection. We said our goodbyes to Patrick, and we made plans to speak more in depth later. Then Harry and I decided, after this exquisite small film, that Patrick was right. We should go to Unlimited. As we walked past the other gallery stalls, Harry whispered, he wants us to buy the giant movie. And you remember what I said? I said, what do you mean, darling? He said, if we want the early film, he'll sell it to us if we buy the expensive one. Oh, I said, and thought for a moment. Oh no, I don't think we can do that. Harry said he's driving a hard bargain. I whispered back that he hasn't even mentioned selling boxers. Harry said, do you remember what you said, darling? Harry said he didn't need to mention it. Patrick is above that. He'd never say that on the fair's floor, with other people around, but you wait. I'm sure it's what he'll ask us to do. Part of me wanted to love the new film so much that its price was justified for the early work. But part of me wanted to loathe it so that I didn't feel so awful losing the early film. Harry and I walked into Unlimited's exhibition hall. We were alone. Most of the VIPs still perused the gallery stalls, and the second tiers wouldn't be allowed in for another 30 minutes. It was quite nice, actually, seeing these monumental works outside of the cramped stalls of the regular fair. The work in the fair can be quite disappointing, so little craft sometimes. But with these unlimited works, these artists had obviously invested considerable thought and time into them. We eventually found what appeared to be a forest of white boxes hanging from the ceiling, and more boxes poked up from the ground like stalagmites. We immediately knew that we had found Miss Merode. Fortunately, we saw no sign of the Kramlichs. We did, however, see another prominent collector, Diane Skirmerhorn, and Thomas, her what shall we call him, dear? Ah, yes, her companion, who happens to be 50 years younger than her. Hush, darling, she doesn't care. She doesn't care that Diane's hunchback is bigger than it was a few years before at the Biennale. Thomas, bless him, had outgrown some of his baby fat. Celia's film was so far away from the main entrance that Harry whispered that Thomas must have carried her over his shoulder to get her there. We'd heard about that through friends. He carries her now. The fifth person standing among the forest of white boxes was Anton Gretsch, the curator from MoMA. As soon as he saw Harry and I, he clapped his hands together and walked toward us. He said, "Bernadette, Harry, did you see it?" "No, dear, we just walked in." He said, "Oh my goodness, it just finished a loop. I don't even know what I just saw. It was, oh, you'll have to see. I don't even have words." I suddenly feared that we had even more competition than we'd bargained for. 30 of these white boxes must have stood between us and the main screen, which was difficult to see due to all of the boxes. Then one by one, images appeared on them, slowly filling in the white space. A crowd shot began to form, people in an arena. Heads and shoulders lined up in front of us. More bodies filled bleachers farther away, rafters above our heads with different flags hanging from those rafters. And then the last white spaces were filled in like a completed puzzle, revealing the image of a boxing match. From our vantage point, we stood perhaps 20 rows back from the ring, and for the first time in a Merode work, we heard sound, the single ding of the ring's bell. But it rang every 5 seconds. The boxing match had already begun. The bell didn't start anything. If anything, the match started the bell. The two men in the ring pummeled each other, giant, brutish men. Anton whispered, "You must move, you must. I've already watched twice, and neither time was the same, as long as you move." He wandered in between the boxes, now covered with snippets of the boxing match, and the bell continued to ring. Diane's skirmer horn slowly shuffled from one point to another. She stood in place and lifted a hand. Her man Thomas slowly picked her up and moved her to another vantage point. Harry and I wandered into the film's maze. As we walked past the first rows of boxes, we found ourselves closer to the ring. And while they still appeared quite far away from us, the boxers seemed different. One man remained. He had somebody on the ropes, somebody in a leotard. The domineering man absolutely throttled the other, and the bell continued ringing. The crowd from our first vantage point had appeared to be the type of crowd that you might see at these things in Las Vegas, both men and women, many dressed finely despite the sport's brutality. But from this new vantage point, everyone appeared to be a man. Harry and I walked closer to the screen, past yet more screen boxes, and I grabbed his hand very tightly. We now appeared to stand at the ring, even on the mat. I looked across to see that the crowd was now manic 13-year-old boys, all of them in tattered clothing, screaming, but we did not hear them. And in front of us, crawling around the mat, leaving a slick of blood behind her, was Celia Merode herself. Her face was badly beaten, but we knew it was her. And then she slowly stood up, and she seemed to be looking for the other boxer. She threw punches into the air, but her eyes were swollen shut. She kept throwing the flimsy punches, and the punches threw her entire body forward, making her stumble. The bell kept ringing. She kept punching the air. And then the bell rang once more, and the screen turned white. All of the projections ended. Harry and I turned to look back through the forest of boxes. I didn't know if we were in Switzerland anymore.